One of the great discoveries of my life was this simple idea. Everything runs on a system. Everything. Nature runs on the system of seasons. Businesses run on systems and processes. Cities run on systems of order and design. And your life, your habits, your days, your priorities, your results runs on a system too. The only question is, did you design it or did it happen by default? Most people wake up every morning and rely on one thing to guide their day, their feelings. And that's a poor system because feelings are like the weather changing, unpredictable, unreliable. Some days you feel like doing the work and some days you don't. Some days you feel ready to face the world and some days you'd rather hide from it. If your life depends on how you feel, your consistency will always be a gamble. See, you don't get the life you wish for. You get the life your systems can sustain. That's what I learned early on, and that's what I want to show you today. Because once you understand this, once you truly grasp it, you stop asking for motivation and you start building infrastructure. You stop relying on inspiration and you start relying on routines. You stop hoping that life will get easier and you start becoming someone who handles life better. Let me give you a thought. Your life already has an operating system. Whether you designed it or not, it's running. It runs every morning when you wake up. It runs every day at work. It runs every evening when you're tired. And if you haven't deliberately designed that system, chances are you're running on something sloppy, something reactive, something patched together by habits you didn't choose and influences you didn't select. Today, I want to show you how to install what I call your Consistency OS, your personal operating system for discipline, clarity, and growth. A set of systems so simple and so steady that consistency becomes almost automatic, not because you're superhuman, not because you're always inspired, but because the system takes over where motivation fails. Your Consistency OS has 3 essential components. First, the philosophy file, your mindset, your values, your beliefs that govern your decisions. Second, the daily setup process, the rhythm you start your day with that determines everything that comes after. And third, the weekly review system, a habit of reflection that keeps you aligned, disciplined, and out of trouble. When these 3 systems are installed, something remarkable happens. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. You regain control of your time. You regain control of your habits. You regain control of your direction. And instead of drifting, you begin designing. Instead of reacting, you begin responding. Instead of hoping, you begin choosing. Remember this line. Don't trust your memory, trust your structure. Don't trust your moods, trust your philosophy. Don't trust chance, trust design. Because a designed life is a powerful life. A designed life has momentum. And momentum, once earned, is very hard to stop. So today, let's lay the foundation. Let's install the system. Let's rebuild the operating code that runs your days, directs your habits, and shapes your destiny. Because once your Consistency OS is in place, you'll never again wonder why some days you're disciplined and other days you're not. You'll know, and you'll be in control. Now, let's begin the first component of this system, the philosophy file, the foundation of everything. Now let's begin with the very core of your Consistency OS, the foundation piece, what I call the philosophy file. Because before you build disciplines, before you build routines, before you build habits, you must build the philosophy that makes those habits necessary. Your philosophy is simply the way you think. It's your view of life. It's your understanding of consequences. It's the collection of ideas you accept as true. And your philosophy is the greatest determining factor in how your life unfolds. Not the economy, not the government, not your intelligence. Your philosophy, let me give you a classic Jim Rohn line. Your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. But change begins with your philosophy. Everything starts there. Because your philosophy becomes your beliefs. Your beliefs become your habits. Your habits become your character. And your character becomes your destiny. So if destiny is the fruit, philosophy is the seed. And you cannot plant a seed of neglect and expect a harvest of excellence. You cannot plant a philosophy of comfort and expect a life of achievement. You cannot plant a philosophy of excuses and expect a future of discipline. Your consistency OS will collapse if the philosophy underneath it is weak. This is why some people start strong, but don't stay strong. Their system had structure, but no soul. They set goals, but didn't adopt beliefs that supported those goals. They changed their behavior, but never changed their thinking. Consistency doesn't begin in the calendar, it begins in the mind. It's not a scheduling problem, it's a thinking problem. So what belongs inside this philosophy file? Let me give you 4 essential ideas. If you adopt these, everything else becomes easier. First, responsibility. Jim Rohn taught, you must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself. Your life improves when you improve. That's philosophy. Your results change when you change. That's philosophy. Your consistency strengthens when your standards rise. That's philosophy. Responsibility is the first brick of the foundation. Second, the value of small disciplines. This is one of the great truths. Success is not created by intensity. It is created by consistency. 10 minutes, a few pages, a short workout, one brave conversation. Easy to do and easy not to do. Your philosophy must recognize that small disciplines practiced daily create big rewards over time. Third, the law of the harvest. Jim Rohn used to say, you cannot change the harvest in the fall. You can only change the seeds in the spring. This is a profound philosophy. It means you must plant before you can expect. You must water before you see growth. You must wait before you reap. Consistency becomes easier when you understand life works in seasons, not explosions. Fourth, the difference between pain now and pain later. Pain is inevitable, but you choose the type. There is the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. This is a philosophy, a worldview, a personal law. And once it's installed, discipline no longer feels like suffering, it feels like wisdom. So here's the assignment. Because every philosophy must come alive through practice. Each morning, you must perform a quick philosophy check-in. Ask yourself, what am I becoming? What did I learn yesterday? What must I do today to stay aligned with the life I want? Not complicated, not dramatic, just consistent. Because your philosophy file is not a book on your shelf, it's the operating code of your mind, something you review, something you refine, something you recite. And remember this, if your philosophy is weak, your consistency will fail. If your philosophy is strong, your consistency will flourish. That is the first essential system, the first installation, the root program that gives power to everything that comes after. Now that we've built the foundation, let's move to the next system of your consistency OS, the morning setup process, designing predictable excellence. Now that we've established your philosophy, the root program of your consistency OS, it's time to address the next component, your mornings. Because the morning is where the day begins, and the day is where your life is built. And if your mornings are chaotic, your life will reflect that chaos. If your mornings are reactive, your life will be reactive. But if your mornings are intentional, quiet, and directed, your whole life begins to follow that same rhythm. Jim Rohn used to say, a day is a little lifetime, meaning every day contains a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning, your morning, is the part you have the most control over. Once the world wakes up, once the demands show up, once the noise rushes in, once life begins to pull on you from every direction, the time for design is over. So you must win the morning before the world has a chance to influence it. Let me ask you a question. When you wake up in the morning, do you pick up your phone or do you pick up your life? Do you check notifications or do you check your direction? Do you let the world set your tone or do you set it yourself? Most people wake up into noise. They start with other people's messages, other people's goals, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies, and by the time they finish reacting, their day is no longer their own. A morning without design is simply a day surrendered. But here's the good news. Designing your morning is remarkably simple. It doesn't require hours. It doesn't require perfection. It just requires silence, intention, and structure. And the structure I recommend follows 4 simple steps, 4 small rituals that prepare your mind, your body, your time, and your direction for the day ahead. Let's go through them. 1. Reflection. Who do I want to be today? Start with a moment of quiet. Not a dramatic meditation, not an elaborate ritual, just a few minutes to turn inward and ask, what kind of person am I showing up as today? What matters most today? What must I refuse today? Distraction, laziness, fear? A day without reflection is a day lived on autopilot. A day with reflection is a day lived on purpose. 2. Learning, feeding the mind before feeding the day. A few pages of a good book, a few minutes of a great idea. Something that stretches your thinking and sharpens your perspective. Jim Rohn wrote, "Every day stand guard at the door of your mind." What you read in the morning shapes how you interpret the world for the next 16 hours. 10 minutes of wisdom in the morning can save you 10 hours of confusion later. 3. Planning, giving your day its assignment. Most people drift through the day because they never told the day what it should become. Take a few moments to write down your top 3 priorities. Not 30, 3. 3 things that matter, 3 things that move the needle, 3 things that, if completed, would make the day a good one. Here's the philosophy. If you don't run the day will run you. Your morning planning is how you take charge. 4. Movement, awakening the body to awaken the mind. You don't need a full workout, though. That's wonderful. Just move, stretch, walk, breathe deeply. Energy is the fuel of consistency, and you generate it through movement. Remember Jim Rohn's line, treat your body like a temple, not a woodshed. Your body is part of the OS. Treat it well, and it performs well. Now, why does this matter? Because when your morning is built with reflection, learning, planning, and movement, something special happens. Your day becomes more predictable. Your choices become more deliberate. Your actions become more consistent. Life doesn't feel like something you chase. It feels like something you lead. This is what we mean by predictable excellence. It's not magic. It's not motivation. It's structure. If you win the morning, you win the day. And if you win enough days, your life begins to compound into something remarkable. So install this morning's setup process. Make it quiet. Make it simple. Make it yours. Because it is the daily restart sequence of your consistency OS. Now that we've shaped your mornings, the daily reset of your consistency OS, it's time to rise a level higher. Because while mornings create momentum, weeks create direction. And if your days are like small lifetimes, then your weeks are like seasons, a chance to plant, a chance to cultivate, a chance to harvest, and a chance to reflect. Jim Rohn loved the concept of seasons. He called it one of the great laws of life. You cannot change the seasons, he said, but you can change yourself. And in the same way, nature has 4 seasons. Your life has weekly seasons. Every 7 days, you get a fresh window to examine your progress, correct your course, renew your energy, and plan with intelligence. But here's the truth. Most people never review their week. They just survive it. They react to it. They rush through it. And before they know it, 1 week becomes 1 month, 1 month becomes 1 year, and 1 year becomes a lifetime of unintended outcomes. Let me give you a line to remember. Drift is the enemy of greatness. And the weekly review is how you stop the drift. See, your consistency OS needs maintenance, just like your computer, your car, your home, your relationships. No system thrives without evaluation. No structure lasts without inspection. So once a week, same day, same time, you sit down with yourself and take inventory. Not with guilt, not with judgment, but with curiosity and responsibility. This weekly review is your alignment ritual. It's how you make sure the life you're living matches the life you're designing. Let me show you the structure. 1. Review your wins. Celebrate the seeds you planted. Begin with what went well. Most people rush past their wins and obsess over their failures. Don't do that. Give yourself credit for discipline. Acknowledge progress. Notice the seeds you planted and the courage you showed. Why? Because what you celebrate, you reinforce. And what you reinforce, you repeat. 2. Review your losses. Catch neglect while it's small. Jim Rohn said, neglect starts as an infection. Catch it early. Ask yourself, where did I fall short? What did I avoid? What did I delay? What did I pretend not to notice? Not for shame, but for strategy. You can correct something small. You can adjust something minor. You can't fix what you refuse to see. This is how you stop the drift. This is how you prevent small errors from becoming big regrets. 3. Review your habits. Examine the patterns you are creating. Every week, your patterns tell a story of discipline or a story of distraction, a story of small improvements or a story of slow decline. Ask, did I follow my morning setup? Did I honor my non-negotiables? Did I choose growth over comfort? Did I let the wrong voices influence me? Remember, the consistency you build becomes the character you trust. Weekly review strengthens that character. 4. Review your philosophy. Update your operating code. Your philosophy isn't something you write once, it's something you refine forever. Every week brings new experiences, new lessons, new insights. Review them. Ask, what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about discipline? What did the world teach me this week? Ideas are like gold, but you must mine them. And the weekly review is your gold mine. 5. Set the new direction design next week's season. Now that you've reflected, it's time to design. Decide on 3 big outcomes for the next week. Only 3. Because 3 shapes clarity. And clarity shapes discipline. Plan your priorities before they plan you. A designed week leads to a designed life. And design always beats drift. 6. Rekindle purpose. Remind yourself why it all matters. Consistency without purpose becomes mechanical, but consistency with purpose becomes meaningful. So end your review with a simple question. Why am I building this life? Read your goals. Reconnect with your vision. Strengthen your resolve. Renew your fire. Purpose is the spark. Discipline is the engine. Weekly review keeps them both alive. When you perform this weekly review consistently, something powerful happens. Your months no longer disappear. Your efforts no longer scatter. Your goals no longer fade into the background. Your life no longer drifts into chance. Instead, you adjust quickly. You improve steadily. You notice progress early. And you correct mistakes while they're still small. This is how you stay on track. This is how you build momentum. This is how you turn consistency into a lifestyle. Your weekly review is the maintenance cycle of your consistency OS. Ignore it, and the system breaks. Honor it, and the system thrives. Now that you've built your mornings, and you've built your weekly rhythm, it's time to protect everything you're building, because a system, no matter how well designed, can still be corrupted by the wrong environment. And this is one of the great lessons Jim Rohn taught us. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You might have a strong philosophy. You might have a solid morning routine. You might have a disciplined weekly review. But if your environment contradicts your intentions, the environment will win. Let me put it another way. Discipline is strong, but environment is stronger. Why? Because your environment shapes your thoughts before you shape your choices. Your environment influences your mood before you influence your behavior. Your environment directs your energy before you direct your time. Think of your consistency OS like a powerful computer. You can have the fastest processor, you can have the best programs installed, but if you let viruses into the system, corruption begins, a little at first, barely noticeable. Then suddenly, everything slows, freezes, breaks down. And that's exactly what happens to people. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack ambition, but because they never guarded their environment. So let's install the environment filter, the shield that protects your consistency OS from the world's noise, negativity, and distraction. There are 3 layers to this filter. And if you strengthen all 3, your consistency becomes nearly unshakable. 1. The people filter, who gets access to your mind. Your environment begins with people. Because people shape your mindset, your expectations, your habits, and your standards. Whether you're aware of it or not. There are chargers and drainers. There are builders and complainers. There are growth-minded individuals, and there are people who haven't changed in 20 years. Jim Rohn said, some people help you grow. Some people help you go down. And it's your responsibility to know the difference. Ask yourself each week, who energizes me? Who drains me? Who challenges me? Who distracts me? Who celebrates my progress? Who secretly resents it? Your consistency OS cannot operate cleanly if your circle is corrupt. You don't need to remove everyone, just reduce the wrong influences and increase the right ones. Sometimes it's not about cutting people out. It's about limiting access. 2. The platform filter, what enters your mind through your screens? Let's be honest. Most people spend more time with their screens than with their friends. Your phone, your apps, your feeds, they are now part of your environment. And if you don't filter your platforms, the platforms will filter you into distraction, into comparison, into negativity, into chaos. So ask yourself, what am I consuming daily? Do these inputs strengthen me or weaken me? Do they expand my perspective or shrink it? Remember, your mind is too valuable to hand over to algorithms. Protect it. Curate it. Choose what you let enter it. Because what enters your mind eventually enters your life. 3. The place filter is your space helping you or hindering you. Your physical environment matters. It shapes your energy, your clarity, your motivation, your focus. A cluttered room creates a cluttered mind. A chaotic desk creates chaotic priorities. A noisy environment creates noisy thinking. Jim Rohn said your environment must be a garden, not a desert. Meaning it must nourish you, not drain you. Take inventory of your spaces, your office, your bedroom, your workspace, your car, your digital spaces too. Ask, is this environment aligned with the future I'm building? Does it support my discipline or sabotage it? A simple environment upgrade, a clean desk, a quiet corner, a dedicated journal space can transform your consistency overnight. Now here's the powerful truth. Your environment is the silent architect of your behavior. It influences you more than motivation ever will, more than passion ever could, more than intention ever has. A great environment does half the work for you. A poor environment undoes half the progress you've made. So create your filters. Curate your circle. Curate your inputs. Curate your spaces. Because once your environment supports your consistency, discipline stops feeling hard. It becomes the natural thing to do, the obvious thing to do, the easy thing to do. Now that your environment is clean, supportive, and aligned with the life you want, it's time to activate the engine that makes consistency possible day after day. Because philosophy gives you direction, the morning system gives you momentum, the weekly review gives you alignment, and the environment protects your progress. But none of that works unless you take action. Consistent action, daily action, small action. Jim Rohn said it plainly, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, not inspiration, not motivation, not good intentions. Discipline. The willingness to do what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. But here's the challenge. Discipline is difficult when it relies on emotion. Discipline is unreliable when it relies on willpower. Discipline becomes unstable when it relies on motivation. So instead of treating discipline as a feeling, we treat it as a loop. A loop is something that repeats on its own once it's set in motion. It has steps, it has structure, it has predictability. Your consistency OS uses what I call the discipline loop, a simple 4-step cycle that turns effort into habit and habit into identity. Let's install the loop. 1. The trigger. What starts the action? Every discipline begins with a trigger, a cue. This is where most people fail. They rely on remembering, but remembering is not a system. Remembering is unreliable. Triggers are reliable. A trigger could be a time on the clock, a place in your house, a signal like putting on workout shoes, the sound of the coffee machine, opening your journal. Your trigger tells your mind, now we do this. And the more consistent the trigger, the more automatic the discipline becomes. Remember this line. Don't wait to feel ready. Create a trigger that makes you move. 2. The action, the discipline itself. Now comes the actual work. But here's the secret. The action must be simple. Not easy, but simple. Why? Because complicated disciplines die quickly. Jim Rohn taught that small disciplines repeated every day create extraordinary results. So your action should be measurable, doable, repeatable. Examples. Read 10 pages. Walk for 10 minutes. Write for 15 minutes. Practice a skill for 20 minutes. Make one important call. Study one concept. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just consistent. Because the purpose of discipline is not to impress the world. The purpose of discipline is to build the self. And the self grows best through steady effort, not occasional intensity. 3. The reward. Reinforce the action. After the discipline, you need a reward. But we're not talking about cookies or shopping sprees. We're talking about something far more powerful. The reward of self-respect. The reward of integrity. The reward of keeping your promise to yourself. Nothing builds identity faster than doing what you said you'd do. Every completed discipline tells your mind, I am the kind of person who follows through. This is the internal reward. And you must recognize it. Celebrate it. Acknowledge it. Because what you reward, you reinforce. And what you reinforce, you repeat. 4. The reflection, the loop that makes it stick. The final step is reflection. Just a moment. Not an essay. Not a long journal. A single question is enough. What progress did I make today? Reflection turns discipline into learning. Reflection turns action into understanding. Reflection turns repetition into wisdom. This moment of reflection completes the loop. You triggered the action. You performed the discipline. You received the reward. Now you reinforce the cycle. And every time you complete the loop, you strengthen the behavior. You deepen the habit. You upgrade your identity. This is how discipline becomes automatic. Not through force, not through pressure, but through design. Now here's the beautiful part. Once a behavior becomes automatic, consistency is no longer a struggle. It becomes your default, your norm, your new standard. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You rise to the level of your systems. And the discipline loop is the system that keeps your consistency OS running day after day, month after month, year after year. Now that your discipline loop is running, your actions triggered, your habits strengthened, your identity reinforced, we arrive at one of the greatest principles Jim Rohn ever taught, a principle so powerful, so quiet, so unglamorous, that most people overlook it their entire lives. It is the engine behind every meaningful achievement. It is the secret behind every lasting transformation. It is the law that nature itself obeys. Jim Rohn called it the law of accumulation. Today, most people call it the compound effect. But whatever name you give it, it works every time, without fail. Because this is not a motivational concept, it's a law of life. A law as reliable as gravity, as predictable as the sunrise, and as impartial as time itself. The compound effect says this: a little each day adds up to a lot over time. But here's the key: so does a little neglect, a little mistake, a little drift, a little laziness. Everything compounds. Everything accumulates. Everything builds on itself. This is why small disciplines matter, not because they feel powerful today, but because they become powerful tomorrow. Let me explain it the Jim Rohn way. Jim used to say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but you can't eat 7 apples on Sunday to make up for the week. Why? Because life doesn't reward intensity. Life rewards consistency. Life rewards accumulation. Let's explore how this growth engine works. 1. Small efforts multiply, but only if you continue them. Read 10 pages a day. That's 3,650 pages a year. That's dozens of books. That's hundreds of new ideas. That's a transformed mind. Do 10 minutes of exercise a day. That's 1 hour a week. 4 hours a month. 50 hours a year. That's a different body. Save a small amount each day. That's not just savings. That's compounded growth. That's opportunity. That's financial stability. But here's the key. None of these feel significant on day one. Nothing changes dramatically. No one applauds. No fireworks go off. And that's exactly why people quit. Small disciplines feel insignificant at the beginning, but they are unstoppable at the end. 2. Neglect also compounds, but in the opposite direction. Skip one morning routine, skip one workout, skip one day of learning. It feels harmless. No big difference, but skip it again, and suddenly a week is gone. A month is gone. A season is gone. Jim Rohn said, failure is not a single cataclysmic event. Failure is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Just like discipline compounds, neglect compounds too. But it compounds into regret, into frustration, into a life you hardly recognize. This is why your consistency OS is so important. It protects you from the silent accumulation of neglect. 3. Time is the greatest multiplier. Time will multiply whatever you give it. Discipline, time multiplies it into mastery. Effort, time multiplies it into results. Learning, time multiplies it into wisdom. But give time your excuses, and it multiplies them into limitations. Give time your laziness, and it multiplies it into weakness. Give time your fear, and it multiplies it into missed opportunities. Time is not your enemy. Time is simply a mirror. It reflects whatever you consistently do. 4. The growth engine turns quiet action into loud results. This is one of Jim Rohn's most beautiful teachings. People don't see your daily disciplines, but they will see your future. Your growth engine works in silence, in small steps, in quiet repetitions, in private decisions. And one day, the results become visible. The progress becomes undeniable. The transformation becomes public, not because you announced anything, but because you accumulated everything. Every book, every morning, every habit, every moment of discipline. The compound effect takes the small and makes it significant. It takes the ordinary and makes it extraordinary. It takes the invisible and makes it visible. 5. The key to activating the growth engine is patience. This is where many people fail. They want fast results, immediate success, instant transformation. Jim Rohn taught, you cannot harvest in the same week that you plant. The seasons must take their course. The process must unfold. Growth must accumulate. Patience isn't passive. Patience is discipline, waiting, working while the results are still invisible, watering the seed when nothing is sprouting, believing in the process long before others believe in the outcome. And that's the beauty of the growth engine. It doesn't require talent. It doesn't require brilliance. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It only requires consistency. Your consistency OS, once activated, feeds the engine every day. And the engine multiplies your effort into something remarkable. This is why people who stay consistent, even at low intensity, eventually outrun everyone who bursts with high intensity but no repeatability. Slow and steady is not just a phrase. Slow and steady is a strategy, a systemic advantage, a compounding force. Now, once your growth engine is running, we move to the next critical layer, how to handle setbacks, crashes, and failures without breaking the system. Because every OS must be able to recover. Every system must be able to reboot. Every life must learn to start again. Now that your growth engine is running silent, steady, powerful, it's time to prepare for something inevitable. Crashes, setbacks, and failures. Because no matter how strong your philosophy is, no matter how disciplined your morning routine becomes, no matter how carefully you review your week, no matter how clean your environment is, life will interrupt you. You will have off days. You will stumble. You will drift. You will break a habit you were proud of. You will skip a day you promised yourself you'd honor. You will lose momentum for reasons you didn't expect. And this isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of humanity. It's part of the system. It's part of the journey. Jim Rohn said something powerful. Failure is not a single event. Failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. But he also said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. So failure and success both come down to one thing: what you repeat. And the key to long-term consistency is not avoiding failure, it's learning how to recover from failure quickly. Your consistency OS must not only help you perform, it must also help you repair. So let's talk about troubleshooting. Let's talk about how to fix your system when it falters. Let's talk about how to reboot yourself when life throws you off track. There are 5 powerful steps. 1. Diagnose the crash name, what actually happened. Most people feel guilty before they feel curious. They blame themselves before they analyze themselves. But guilt doesn't fix systems. Awareness does. Ask simple, honest questions. What caused me to slip? Was it exhaustion? Was it distraction? Was it environment? Was it poor planning? Was it emotional overwhelm? When you name the cause, you neutralize its power. A problem defined is a problem weakened. 2. Remove the shame. Shame breaks systems. Shame says, you failed. Wisdom says, you slipped. Shame says, you're not disciplined. Wisdom says, let's fix the trigger. Shame says, start over next month. Wisdom says, start over in the next 5 minutes. Shame breaks consistency. Grace rebuilds it, and you must give yourself grace. Not excuses, grace. Jim Rohn taught, the day you discipline your disappointment is the day you start to change. You can feel the disappointment. Just don't drown in it. Feel it. Learn from it. Then move on. 3. Return to one small discipline. Reboot the system. Don't try to restart everything at once. You don't need a life overhaul. When a computer crashes, you don't load all files at once. You restart the core system. When your consistency crashes, you do the same. Choose one discipline. Just one. The smallest, the simplest, the easiest to repeat. A 5-minute discipline can rebuild a 5-year identity. Because discipline is less about the duration and more about the return. The moment you return to discipline, even for a minute, you regain momentum. You reconnect with your identity. You restore your integrity. Remember this. A small restart is more powerful than a perfect plan. 4. Review your systems. Was it motivation or design? If you slipped, it doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're inconsistent by nature. It often means your system was missing something. Ask these diagnostic questions. Did I skip my morning setup? Did I neglect my environment filter? Did I stop reviewing my week? Did I overload my schedule? Did I fail to simplify my habits? Most crashes happen because one element of the OS fell out of alignment. Once you find it, you fix it, and your system stabilizes again. 5. Start again, the most powerful discipline of all. Jim Rohn used to say, start from wherever you are and with whatever you've got. There's nothing more powerful than someone who knows how to begin again. Not with guilt, not with self-judgment, not with shame, with intention, with clarity, with commitment. Success doesn't belong to those who never fall. It belongs to those who fall and rise, fall and rise, fall and rise again. Your ability to restart quickly, calmly, deliberately is the ultimate advantage in building consistency. The real danger is not a crash. The real danger is letting the crash become a habit. letting the delay become a pattern, letting the disappointment become an identity. But when you troubleshoot your slip, remove shame, restart with something small, realign your systems, and start again, you turn failure from an ending into a reset. You turn setbacks from obstacles into lessons. You turn flaws from weaknesses into wisdom. A system that can reboot can survive anything. And a person who can reboot can become unstoppable. Now that you know how to repair your system when it falters, we are ready for the final piece. How to integrate all these systems into a life philosophy that lasts, a life that compounds, and a consistency that becomes your signature. And now we come to the final piece, the conclusion, the final reminder, not the end of the message, but the beginning of your new system. You've learned the philosophy. You've learned the morning rhythm. You've learned the weekly review. You've learned how to protect your environment. You've learned the discipline loop. You've learned the compound effect. And you've learned how to troubleshoot the inevitable crashes of life. All of these are parts of your consistency OS, your personal operating system for discipline, direction, and daily excellence. But remember this, a system is only powerful when it is used. It's not what's written in your journal. It's not what's highlighted in your book. It's not what's saved in your notes. It's what you live. It's what you repeat. It's what you become. Consistency isn't a talent. Consistency isn't a gift. Consistency isn't reserved for the chosen few. Consistency is the natural result of a well-designed system. And now, you have that system. Jim Rohn used to say, life is not just the passing of time. Life is the collection of experiences, ideas, disciplines, and efforts that shape your future. And that's exactly what you've built. A structure strong enough to hold your dreams. A routine consistent enough to reshape your habits. A philosophy wise enough to guide your decisions. A discipline loop steady enough to change your character. And a growth engine powerful enough to transform your life. So the question now is simple. Will you design your life or drift into one? Drift is effortless. Drift is natural. Drift requires nothing. Just a little neglect, a little delay, a little distraction, and the weeks slip away. The months slip away. The years slip away. And the life you wanted becomes a distant memory. But design is deliberate. Design requires clarity. Design requires structure. Design requires intention. Design requires systems. And if you use the systems we've built together, your philosophy file, your morning setup, your weekly review, your environment filter, your discipline loop, your growth engine, you won't drift. You won't hope. You won't wish. You won't wait for the perfect moment. You'll design. You'll act. You'll shape. You'll become. Because that's the final message Jim Rohn would leave you with today. Don't let your future be decided by chance. Let it be decided by choice. Your consistency will speak louder than your words. Your results will speak louder than your intentions. Your systems will speak louder than your excuses. And one day, quietly, steadily, inevitably, your life will begin to reflect the disciplines you practiced in private. Not because you shouted anything, not because you advertised your effort, but because you built a system that could not fail you, as long as you did not abandon it. So today, let this be the beginning of your designed life. Install your consistency OS. Live the philosophy. Honor the routines. Protect your environment. Trust the compound effect. And when you fall, get back up quickly and gracefully. Do this day after day, week after week, season after season. And your results will speak for you loudly, boldly, unmistakably. That is the power of a designed life. That is the reward of consistency. And that is the legacy of Jim Rohn's philosophy living through you.